Oh, I might have to do that. All right, so welcome everybody. This is session number 2 of our paraprofessional training series, and it's titled The 3 R's, the roles, responsibilities, and relationships. So we're going to just dive right in because we've got a lot to cover today. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm very excited to be with you guys, and we're going to just jump in. All right. Well, I don't know about you, but I love fall. I really love fall. I've had the opportunity to travel a little bit around the state and even into Utah this past weekend. And I just love the changing colors. And this is a time when I actually like change. So I love that there's just a little chill in the air. I love sweater weather and hoodie weather. Also love summer for getting in the, playing in the water. But I'm a Georgia girl, so I love that it gets a little bit chilly, but not too cold like in winter. So hopefully it'll stay this way for just a little while longer and not have crazy weather. All right, so as you can see here, this is our training schedule. And as we look here, we're again in session number 2, and you can see the remaining trainings that we have coming up. So if you're wondering what's coming up, our next one's going to be about supporting students in and out of the classroom, the general education classroom. So we'll talk a little bit about that next time. Okay, this is, as we're talking about the training sessions and information, first of all, I had actually put something in the chat. Are you guys able to see the chat? I'm going to try it again now that I have a few more of you on. I'm going to see if you're able to see it. Looks like you are. It's a link to the Wyoming Instructional Network. This link will actually get you the materials. If you are not getting my emails, I will be posting all of the materials, and the Zoom links are already live there. So for each session, if you do not get an email with that, I'm not sure what's happening. It seems like some districts have some firewalls. And so when I send a mass email, we are currently over 400 people registered for this training. And so it's a wonderful thing, but sometimes it makes things get kicked back. So we'll have to just watch that and see if that happens. All 5 sessions will be recorded. The only time that you have to worry about attending all 5 live sessions is if you want PTSB credit. If you are attending as a group, that's okay. The last session, there will be some questions for you to answer, but each form, if you're not getting the links, make sure you're getting with some colleagues who are getting the links so that you can get the form at the end of each session, because that will be a requirement. You all have to fill that out. And then that final one, I'll have some information for you to fill out there as well to be able to get credit. So you will be able to get PTSB and or STARS credit. You can get those concurrently. And so just make sure, the biggest thing is that you're attending all 5 live sessions. All right. Whoops, I went backwards, not forward. All right, so today we're going to be talking about getting to know a little bit more about the code of ethics and the code of conduct. We're going to know a little bit more about roles and responsibilities, determining strategies for effective and collaborative partnerships. And we're going to hopefully determine your why if you don't already know what that is. So this next one, there are definitely many reasons why somebody decides to take a job as a paraprofessional. It is a tough job. I know it's a tough job. I've done it for years before I became a teacher. And I know that it can be so hard, but also so rewarding. And so I know sometimes maybe you might have a child at school and you wanted to work there, or maybe you're working on your degree to become a teacher. Maybe you were just bored at home. Maybe you needed a little extra money. Maybe you really like the idea of the schedule because you get time off in the summer and it goes along with the kids' schedule with Christmas off and Thanksgiving off, which I do miss that, I'm not going to lie. And then the last one that I could think of is maybe you also just want to be there so that you can help kids and make a difference. So as we begin this session, I want you to take a moment to think about why you decided to become a para. And I hope that you have a piece of paper or some sticky notes or something handy throughout this session. We are going to be using some paper again. Just plan on having that for every session, because we're going to be doing some activities that will require you to write some things down along the way. So I want you to just take a minute. I'll give you just another minute or so and think about that. Jot down a few notes, maybe whether they're bullet points or a sentence or whatever it is. What is your why? Why are you here as a paraprofessional? Thank you for the thumbs up. If you'll start giving me some thumbs up, we're almost at that minute, right at that minute mark. So I would suspect most of you are done. We are going to circle back to this at the end of the presentation. And so if you start thinking of other things to add to your why as we go through this presentation, go ahead and add those. And it'd be nice to see if there were any changes by the end. Okay, so why or what does a paraprofessional do? Well, we know that they end up working with our students a lot of the time. Of course, they do support the teachers. There's a lot of times they do some administrative things. Clerical things. There's a lot of different roles that you play, and I know that. Definitely, we have some qualifications. Typically, a high school diploma, usually 2 years of college. And most of the time, I think you still have to take the state test. I'm not sure where we're at that. I didn't have a chance to go back and research that. When I was a paraprofessional, there were certain things that we had to do to be a para. There are states who, there are certifications that you have to have in order to be a paraprofessional. And so Wyoming is not one of those, but anyway, there's definitely some different things for different states. Definitely a wide range of responsibilities and skills. Sometimes, especially if you have dual or multiple languages, I know that they would love to have you let them know that, because many times our students, our ELL students, or even our, sometimes meetings we have, they'll use paras in language instruction, and of course, special education. So again, these are just a few things. We're going to get a little farther into this, but you'll have these slides so you can go back through and review these at a later time. But definitely notice some of these things that you might be asked to take attendance, but you're not, there's definitely some things you might help grade, but you're not responsible for administering that final grade. So just know that. They act as a nurturing influence on students for sure, provide one-on-one assistance. Sometimes you'll have a small group. And so again, that bilingual can act as translators in the classroom. You might get asked to interpret during meetings or even an IEP. They definitely serve as a guide, help to enforce school rules, and monitor the classroom. This is about a behavior plan. I'm not going to go into great detail at this time about that, a behavior intervention plan, because we're going to talk about that later when we talk a little more about behavior. I added this slide because I truly, truly believe this. I've seen this in action, both with myself and also with others, many others. And so know that you truly may be the one reason that that child comes to school that day. Um, and I know the relationships that you end up having with students, and I know that teachers rely on you for that. And so we're going to talk about that a little later too. So code of ethics, what is it? It's a set of rules and principles designed to encourage ethical conduct among a group of professionals. So what does that even mean, right? Here you're going to see, sorry, I'm looking different places because I have, some of these screens are so small, I have to look elsewhere to find what you're seeing. So I ended up getting this from the National Education Association, and I want you to take a look. There's a bolded part on this slide that talks in their preamble, and it says the National Education Association believes that the education profession consists of one education workforce serving the needs of all students, and that the term educator includes education support professionals. I wanted to point that out so that you realize that all of these things do include you, not just teachers. So our code of ethics, I gave you the link here at the bottom of this slide as well, if you want to go and take a look further and see all of the different, I did not put everything on these slides, but I want to talk about a few things here. This is from our Professional Teaching Standards Board, and this is the code of conduct for professional educators. And it says, as members of a team which serves the unique needs of individual students, paraprofessionals also have a responsibility to perform responsibilities ethically in regard to these students. Ethical considerations affect daily responsibilities, interactions with students, and parents and guardians. The paraprofessional, as a representative of the school, and the working relationship of paraprofessional with the supervising teacher, paras must develop their personal understanding about possible situations and the appropriate and ethical responses. Your supervising teacher and administrators can definitely help you in recognizing these responses as well. Your school should already have a district code of ethics for employees, and I'm sure that they've given you those. Sometimes, we don't always read all those all the way through, but it is necessary that we review those. And it may address your relationship with teachers, students, parents, guardians, and even the rest of the school staff. So it is a good thing to go and review. So when we look at technology, there's a few things that I just want to point out. Know your district's technology and communication policy. I know one thing, many of them are going to having students put phones away. Be a model. Don't have your phone out unless it's an absolute emergency. And even then, let the students know, because when they see that, they think, oh, well, different set of standards, right? Definitely don't use your personal phone to text students or call students. I've seen that go south really quickly. So I just wouldn't get into that. And know that when you are posting anything on Facebook and Instagram, I know it probably stands to reason, but in today's time, things, even if we pull it down, it could be captured forever. Somebody might have taken a screenshot, they may have copied it somehow. So if you're going to post it, I hope that you're, willing to have it be out there for all to see. And then when we start looking at healthy boundaries, I do want to talk about a few things. Make sure that you're communicating in appropriate settings. And so when you're teaching, when you're instructing, and you have, especially when we're working one-on-one with a student, always make sure you put yourself in a place where you're visible. Keep the door open. If at all possible, have another adult in the room. Because we just don't know especially in today's time. Just protect yourself that way. And I know it probably stands to reason, but use caution in the way you touch students. I want to talk about that just for a second. I know it's really hard when they're young. They, many times they come up, they want to be in your lap, they want to hug you, they want all of those things. Just use your judgment. We had a little guy who consistently just wanted to climb on and be in this male para's lap that I had. And, I used to just stress that just always make sure that if someone were to walk in, never give somebody a reason to question what you're doing, or, and so even though it may be the most innocent thing in the world, we have to protect not only ourselves, but our children. And so, just make sure that we're being aware. And then the dress appropriately. Of course, I know that your districts will have dress codes, or your center, they'll have dress codes, what's appropriate to be. Just know that you are representing the school. So dress appropriately, just be respectful of that. But also, I want to talk a little bit about some things that you might not think about unless you've already been put in that situation. And that is, when we talk about dress appropriately, we need to think about being mindful of the population that we work with. Sometimes if we have like long necklaces or long like these hoop earrings, if I was sitting in a classroom of especially students who I knew might have some behavior challenges, I would not be wearing these. These are really something quick that if they see, especially moving or dangling, it could be something that they just react and grab. So not only a safety concern for you, but them. And then of course, though, like having restrictive clothing, sometimes that restrictive clothing could be a hindrance to you moving around and, getting up and down. We're up and down off the floor a lot, especially if we are serving our preschool kids or our elementary. Sometimes we're on the floor with our high schoolers if we're doing an activity, because teaching should be fun. And sometimes we do that, right? So make sure that just think about those things as you're considering the population that you work with. And then I hate that I even have to put this on here, but modeling appropriate language for our students. Believe it or not, I've heard teachers and paras use profanity in the classroom. So be the good role model, set the example. I know that we get frustrated. I know they get frustrated. I remember one time working in a high school, so, a big classroom of high school students, and I taught them some words they didn't even know, because, when I was growing up, some of those old words, bring them back, look them up if you need to. But the kids think they're funny and they think that they're going to bring out this new word like fiddlesticks. And, it's not old, or it's not new, but to them it is, because they haven't heard it probably very much or at all. So be creative, think of some things that you can help them. We all get frustrated, but just try and be that good role model. So our roles, responsibilities, and expectations. Say that 3 times quickly. But when we take a look at those, in any job or task that we do, we need to have a clear understanding of what's expected for us to be able to meet those expectations and to be actually even successful in our role. So if you're wondering about that, make sure you're asking questions if you're unsure about what you're asked to do, realizing that many times you're taking a direction and instruction from multiple teachers, maybe even service providers, administrators. So be sure that you're getting clarification if you need it. And then make sure you're also following different guidelines and federal regulations, because those teachers are going to be relying on you to do that as well. And then, of course, offering support as needed to staff and students. This next slide there's a lot on the slide. I'm not going to take time to read that today. I'll let you go back and look at those. But I did want to kind of compare like what a special education teacher, of course, these are not an exhaustive list of what a special ed teacher does and what a para does. But it's just kind of a quick snapshot of some differences here. But I do want to point out, notice some of the language that's in there under the special education teacher. What do you notice? The words that pop out to me that I want to point out to you are: the teacher is the one who designs that specially designed instruction that's based on the student's individual needs. The teacher plans, The teacher delivers that instruction on new concepts and skills, okay? They supervise and provide training and support. A para reinforces, reviews concepts and skills taught by the teacher, and assists students with goals and activities, monitors progress, collects data, reports that data to the teacher, and of course attends training. Both should be attending training. I love being a lifelong learner, and I believe wholeheartedly that when we do that, whether we're teachers, whether we're administrators, directors, whether we're paraprofessionals, and even in our parent roles, if we have students with disabilities, we're continuously learning. And so I think that it's really important that we keep that open. So here's just a few things that paras do. Like we said, they reinforce and review, they assist students. They let the teacher communicate with parents, and I want to really point that out. Sometimes there have been some legal issues of paras revealing things to parents when they shouldn't have done that. And so just be careful. I would just let that teacher take that. They're the ones who are ultimately responsible, and so just making sure that they have that responsibility. What you may not do, and I want some of this, it sounds, I'm not trying to say do not ever do this, but truly do not do this, because sometimes I've heard from paras, well, teachers put other responsibilities on us and they're having us do this. I'm not gonna lie, I've been put in some of these roles myself and didn't realize that it was something I shouldn't be doing. But again, we don't develop lesson plans as paras. We don't introduce that new material or content. We never provide direct instruction portion of the lesson, should not be. We don't assign final grades. We do not develop IEP goals and objectives. That does not mean that we don't value your input on those, but it's the teacher's responsibility, not on the para, to have to do those. And then of course, making sure that you don't have to design classroom management. Are you helping and supporting it? Absolutely. So looking over some different things, these were some, says the 10 qualities of a great paraprofessional. There's many more, and I know that, but let's just take a quick look over these 10. How many of these characteristics do you feel that you possess at this time? Some of these are a little harder than others. The first one, likes kids unconditionally. We know that we have some hard kids, but when you know deep down that that child would, if they could, it's that skill versus will type thing. And plus they're kids, have they been taught? So looking over that, knowing when to back off, when to step in, and having a positive attitude. Again, I know that that's hard to do every day, but which ones do you feel like that you're great at, and which ones do you feel that you could use some work at? And we all, have improvement to make, all of us. All right. Yeah, if you make it work, and there's great days, there's hard days, there's emotional days. Depending on the student, we'll sit right beside them in the classroom and help them take notes if they need that assistance. Other students will sit in the back of the classroom with them. It depends on the student. Walking through the range can be a challenge. Students, okay? So keep on task and on break out the third grade. Just studying. This was my very first summer. It was this. I connected with these kids. I just some years ago. And when like I forgot. That's the point. Here's one, right? Like to be like to that's awesome. That's the best. A lot more. And I, you know, I'm hearing that you guys are not able to hear the video. I apologize. I'm not sure what is going on with that. When I play it on my end, it plays just fine. So hopefully when I share the slides, you'll be able to go back and listen to that. Maybe the next one will be better. I do have a couple of videos in here, and I'll see if I can figure out what's going on when we take a break here in just a little bit. So that video was a group of paraprofessionals just kind of going through their whats, their whys, and talking about working with students. So it's just one of those great videos that I think you'll really enjoy. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it like I said. So I want you to take just a minute and pause and think about your strengths and your weaknesses as a paraprofessional in the classroom. And especially whether you're brand new or whether you're seasoned, we all have strengths, we all have weaknesses. It doesn't matter how long we've been doing it. There are things that come easier to some than others. And so just take a minute. And if you would, take your paper and make a line and put strengths and weaknesses on either side of that line. And go ahead and just put a few things. I'm going to share the next couple of slides. Here's a few that are called academic strengths, just maybe to spur your memory. One that's not on here, I feel like it's kind of stated, but a growth mindset. So if you feel like you have that, I would love for you to put that on your list. And then I'll let you take a look at some of these strengths, and then I'll move to the weaknesses. Once you feel like you have some strengths down, even just a few, three or four, we'll move on to the weaknesses. So give me a thumbs up when you're ready to move on. I don't have as many weaknesses on this slide. I know that there are probably a lot more, but maybe disorganized, that one should probably go on there. This next slide, if you want to add, if you have room at the bottom too, since you've already have kind of your T-chart started, do a line across and do opportunities and threats. If you've never seen a SWOT analysis, that's what this is. Listing your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities. What does that mean? So whatever your strengths are, what opportunities do you have to in your district or your school to help promote that? If you have a weakness, what threats are there to kind of help cause those? And so, and if you want to just start, I'll give you just a minute or so to list some of those things in your box. What's helping us to achieve our objective? What's keeping us from achieving our objectives? Sometimes we have those in our schools, unfortunately, in our districts or centers. Okay, classroom management. What is the first word that comes to mind when you hear the words classroom management? Can you guys just type some answers in the Q&A for me so I can see what you have to say about that? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? chaos, discipline. Some of those are definitely, yeah, discipline, control, order. However, a common misconception about classroom management is that it's synonymous with discipline. Classroom management does include all things that a teacher or paraprofessional does to organize students, their space, their time, and materials, so that their student learning can actually take place in that classroom. And we know that being proactive is key. Discipline strategies are a part of classroom management. And so they, where the focus is on behavior and emotion. Managing the classroom includes setting up classroom rules and expectations, procedures and routines, including and determining strategies for transition, both in and out of the classroom. And number three, those discipline strategies, including like rewards and consequences. It works so much better if those students know ahead of time what's expected of them. And then being consistent about that. And if you are not sure about any of those things, be sure to discuss with your teacher so that you know like what is expected in that classroom. This is just a lovely quote from Harry Wong. A well-organized, well-run classroom can make a significant difference for students regardless of their ability and background. This is so true. I know many, if you've been around a while and you've been able to support, and I'm not trying to be negative on teachers, but we all have our strengths, right? Some people are just amazing at classroom management and some struggle. And so if you're really good at that, you know, maybe you can help support that teacher in the classroom, especially if they're brand new teachers. It's hard. It is a hard job doing their work as well. So it's great when you can become a good team. This one is another one. Just classroom management depends on solid and intentional relationship building with your students. This is the first and foremost important element of successful management in your room. So we're going to move into, we have time to get started into these, and we'll take a break about 4:45. So Jennifer, if you'll let me know when that time comes. So the first one I believe is building and maintaining positive relationships with students and supporting staff. This is key to success. If we don't have relationships, it's really hard for those kids to learn. According to the American Psychological Association, improving students' relationships with teachers has important, positive, and long-lasting implications for both students' academic and social development. Socially improving students' relationships with their teachers will not produce gains in achievement. However, those students who have close, positive, and supportive relationships with their teachers will attain higher levels of achievement than those students with more conflict in their relationships. And I know you know this. There's no secret about that. You can tell those kids are just, they don't want to learn if they don't have a relationship. Picture a student who feels a strong personal connection to their teacher, talks with their teacher frequently and receives more constructive guidance and praise rather than just criticism. That student is likely to trust her teacher more, show more engagement in learning, behave better, and achieve higher levels academically. And most of those students will stay in school. If they have relationships, unless there's other, extenuating circumstances, it has been proven that those students will stay in school and graduate, even when they haven't had that example in their home. And then make sure that we have, our appropriate things, are whatever instruction we have is appropriate to match those students' skills, of course. That's part of having that relationship. So when we take a look at, whoops, I wanted to go back. We take a look at having relationships with students. Take a look at some of the things that, when I started pulling some research, these are some things that they said could help, like making sure we're saying hello to them and goodbye. Smiling, that is so simple to do. How many times have you even been out shopping or something and you're in a grumpy mood or you're so exhausted and you walk into the grocery store and somebody just smiles at you? Maybe somebody you know, maybe somebody you don't. especially when a child smiles at you, it's so hard to not, it just elevates your mood and it's easy to smile back. Get to know them, get to know their likes, their dislikes. What kind of music do they like? You can do so much with music and teach with music. What do they like to read? Even if, we have some kids who, I don't like to read anything. And sometimes it was usually my junior high boys, I don't like anything. But, there was a time when I was teaching at the junior high in Laramie, and I'm teaching, and I was fortunate enough to have this wonderful room with these big windows all around the front side of my room. And so one day I'm teaching, we're going through this lesson, and we're all involved in it. And all of a sudden we hear this huge bang on the window. And I mean, it felt like somebody had tried to throw a brick through it. Come to find out, didn't know at the time what kind it was, but some kind of bird hit our window so hard. And the kids all, of course, ran to the window. They're looking, and this bird we thought it was dead. It's laying there just lifeless looking. So they wanted to go, of course, go check on this bird, and I could not get them to come back. And so we were right in the beginning stages of starting research and starting to write research papers. And it was a perfect opportunity. We do go out. I made sure that they were safe. And these, oh goodness, I just forgot the name of those nasty black birds that come down, and they are, they're dive bombing this bird. And come to find out, it looks like that's why he hit the window, because he was trying to get away from them. The bird was not dead. We started seeing some life. Put a box over him and called Game and Fish. They came and picked up this bird. Turned out it was a sharp-shinned hawk. And so once we found some of that out, the kids were so intrigued by this. I let them pick any native to Wyoming bird that they wanted to do their research. And it was amazing because they had choice, because they had like a skin in the game, and they wanted to see how this hawk was doing. The Game and Fish was so amazing. They took pictures along the way, sent those back to my classroom so that they could see that this hawk was getting better, and they returned it to the wild. So you can definitely have so much fun with that. And of course, you don't always get to make those decisions as paras, but you can definitely be there to support and to provide input. So here's the one about teachers and staff. When we're talking relationships, what do you notice about these two lists? The majority of them are exactly the same, right? Just because we grow up doesn't mean we don't have a lot of the same needs. We're human beings. We all have a lot of the same needs. And even I love the one about just being authentic and have fun. Sometimes, you just have to, it doesn't all have to be, we can laugh, we can make things fun. Learning should be fun. That's when we want to learn. Make sure that you're communicating well. And that includes if there's something you have questions about, don't be afraid to ask your teacher. If there's things that you need to go over, make sure you're going over that with them so that they have an opportunity to, to either make some changes on their end too. Be responsive make sure that whatever you're being asked to do, that you're providing that necessary to support, whether it be to the teacher or to the student. The one that I love the most is growth mindset. And I just, only because I have also had to do this over the years. We don't always click with the adults who we are working with either sometimes, but if we have a growth mindset and we're willing to make those changes for ourselves, it makes such a difference, and we can get over those and make some great improvements. I don't know how many of you have ever seen anything from Rita Pearson. She's no longer with us anymore, but she is an amazing, she was an amazing educator and then became an amazing spokesperson for education and kids. This was a quote from her famous TED Talk, every kid needs a champion. If you have not heard that, I would definitely encourage you to go and watch that. It is amazing. She tells this story during that podcast, and she says, a colleague said to me one time, They don't pay me to like the kids. They pay me to teach a lesson. I should teach it. They should learn it. Case closed. And Rita says, well, I said to her, you know, kids don't learn from people they don't like. And she said, well, that's just a bunch of hooey. And I said to her, well, your year is going to be very long and arduous, dear. Do you think it was? Yeah. Rita came back and said it was, she did. She had a hard year. Which kids, if with that kind of mindset, which kids do you think made the most progress? The one who made time to have relationships with their kids, or the one who didn't? I guarantee you those kids who have relationships are going to definitely grow much faster. And sometimes the kids, you know, when they don't have relationships, I mean, sadly, there have been times when kids have literally pulled out of school, or even in 3rd and 4th grade said, I can't do this. It's just too hard, because they don't feel like they have any support. And so let's make sure that that does not happen to any kids that we work with. Looks like we have time to go through at least this one. We'll see where we're at. So number 2, maintain a safe learning environment for all students. Of course, we know safety is crucial in providing an environment where all kids can learn. If it's not safe, we're not learning, right? And we know that. We'll talk a little bit about the brain later in the other sessions, but if we're in that, especially kids that come to us with trauma, and and we're not keeping a safe environment, it can cause us to not learn at all. So what can we do? Proximity is one thing where we get up, we get out of our seat. Proximity is a great strategy that can be used to support a safe and healthy learning environment. However, know that everyone has a different personal bubble. To err on the side of caution, be sure to keep a safe physical distance from each of your students and allow them to define their personal space, especially our kids with autism. Many times they don't want you to be too close to them. And different kids, they don't have to have autism to feel that way. So we all feel that way as adults. Sometimes there's like this line where, I'm a huggy person and I don't mind people being close to me, but there is finally a line I've found that can be too close. So just respect their privacy. We would want them to respect ours. So show that and model that. And some students are going to feel more comfortable sharing personal things, or just sharing even other details like, I don't like that. Sometimes they don't know what they don't like until they're in that moment and they react. So we have to be careful with that. Again, just being sure that we're moving around. We are not just sitting in the back of the room, that we're up, we're interacting with those students. And we're not just going and interacting with those students who are easy or who we like, who are easier to like. Hopefully we like all students, like we talked about, that we just, sometimes I will tell you, some of my hardest students and the ones who I have scars on my arms from are the students who I literally fell in love with. And, it was my goal to help find a way to help educate them. So I think that, it just depends on how we look at things. Number 3, we're going to go ahead and take a break. I'm going to see if I'm going to stop sharing for a minute during the break, and I'm going to see if I can figure out what's going on with the video, and I'll try to pop on. So I have 4:44 right now. Let's take at least a 5-minute break. Let's come back at 4:49 and we'll start there, and hopefully we'll have it ready.